Suddenly, January 5th bomber is ID'd. The Feds score a major bust in Minnesota. Power will decide the winner of Cold War II. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America with my taste on the latest key stories from this past week focused on politics and business. I have stories stacked up to the ceiling. Suddenly, January 5th bomber ID. Given the forensic skills allegedly available to the FBI and the police, it has been a mystery to me as to why the January 5th, 2021 bomb planter has not been identified and arrested in early 2021. This is the terrorist who planted bombs at both the DNC and RNC headquarters in DC. There's a wide range of theories about these actions, including that it was an attempt to draw police away from the Capitol on January 6th. Even though the bombs did not explode, they were reportedly real bombs that could have done extensive damage. So, under the revitalized FBI led by Kash Patel, we finally have a suspect. Patel credited a dedicated interagency operation in helping to identify the suspect, coordinated by the Deputy Director Dan Bongino. These documents just another failure of the FBI under the Biden-Harris administration and prior Director Chris Wray. Arrested as suspect Brian Cole, a 30-year-old black man from Woodbridge, Virginia, a near suburb of Washington, D.C. Some reports say that Cole was upset about the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. However, that does not explain his leaving a pipe bomb at both the DNC and RNC headquarters. He also bought some of the bomb parts in 2019, nowhere near the election. This sounds more like an anarchist than someone rooting for one party's candidate or the other. I have to wonder out loud if the fact that he was not pursued under the prior administration was his race. Statistically, this type of act is normally committed by a white man, not a black man. If this guy is the one, he was not well trained and that his financial records, like credit cards, tied him to the bomb materials. Sentence announced for shooter in tragedy at UVA. I make no secret that I hold 2 graduate degrees from UVA and consider it a fine university. It is even better now than the prior president has resigned early. This will hopefully restore free speech and rid the grounds of DEI and CRT nonsense. Former UVA student Christopher Darnell was sentenced to 5 life sentences. 3 years ago, he murdered 2 UVA football players and wounded 2 other students as they were on a bus returning from a field trip to nearby Washington, D.C. These are not allegations, as he pled guilty to first-degree murder. I'm an unapologetic supporter of the death penalty. I said this regarding the evil excuse for a human who killed 4 students in Idaho a few years ago. Similarly, given the overwhelming evidence in this case, I do not understand why they did not give this blot on the human race the death penalty. The defense tried to play up the fact that he may have grown up under less than attractive circumstances and was having mental issues. However, the prosecution introduced contrary evidence that he was simply jealous of the persons that he shot. I'm tired of all this talk about how he should feel sorry for someone when they commit horrible acts. I do not. That's just that simple. I do feel sorry for the families who will never live past this unspeakable tragedy. I extend my utmost sympathy to them. The Feds score a major bust in Minnesota. The Feds just announced the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country discovered so far. 78 individuals have been indicted, of whom 57 have been convicted. The accused are mostly Somali immigrants, and they are charged with stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from a federal child nutrition program administered by the Minnesota Department of Education. The humorous twist on the story is that the Dems in Minneapolis and Minnesota are now trying to take credit for these prosecutions, even though they have charged nobody in that program so far. I did not know who Tim Walz was before Harris made the ridiculous decision to have him as her running mate in 2024. It was all downhill from there. Now that America knows who he is, we can all laugh at this joker. Time for him to start the new Three Stooges, as I cannot think of another gig for this whack job. The backstory line is that the prosecutions did not happen under the state of Minnesota because Dems like Walz and Keith Ellison needed the Somali voting bloc. Some rumors swirling about raise a serious issue that those two shut down Minnesota state employees who were whistleblowers. If that is so, and the money stolen was federal money, then perhaps they can be prosecuted for covering up the theft of these federal funds. Let's get Pam Bondi and crew working on this aspect now. Of course, they are innocent until proven guilty. What troubles me about this story is who is minding the store for the taxpayers. I've consistently said that such programs need to end on the federal level now. Why are we sending $100 to Wastefield bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., then $30 is sent back to the states and localities? These states and local losers, most of them Dems, see this as free money, which it surely is not, and do not handle it like their own. Look, there are no poor states in America. The story that the feds have to do this to make sure somebody gets a meal is just bunk. A twist on Nashville entertainment. The GOP congressman who represented the Tennessee 7th Congressional District resigned his seat, and they just had a special election to fill that seat. The district includes heavily Democratic Nashville, but is actually a red district. In 2024, Trump carried the district by 22 points, which we hear over and over again. Folks, you just cannot compare presidential election years with any other election. The Republican candidate, Matt Van Epps, won by 9 percentage points. The left is partying about this like it was the ridiculous outcomes on November 4th in New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia. It was not. The fun part is that after speaking of the Three Stooges, the Dem candidate was Afton Ben, who has reportedly dumped on Tennessee as a racist state and supported burning down police stations. She said this in a podcast, quote, "I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal travels. I hate country music. I hate all the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it." I heard this played on one newscast. The slopstream press suppressed this as much as they could, and some Dems are simply so stupid that they voted for her even though they knew about this stuff. Graystar reaches a $7 million settlement. I've been a small independent landlord for many years. From my end, I rarely can get as much as I need to cover the overhead on my properties. Graystar, the largest landlord in the U.S., was accused of using rent-setting algorithms to collude with other landlords on rents. The settlement covers 9 states. The claim behind this is that RealPage amalgamated data from various landlords, and by using this data, the various landlords can conspire to set prices. This, of course, ties in with the current mantra that everything costs too much. Part of the settlement will prevent Graystar from using this RealPage software in the future. Landlords and investors will need to be especially careful in future not to use this type of information. My own observation is that with out-of-control real estate taxes and property insurance, along with the high cost of repairs and central utilities, I find it interesting that these state attorney generals think that the rents are artificially high. My suggestion to them is the old saying, physician, heal thyself. Let's cut real estate taxes, reduce construction red tape, and control tort lawsuits. I notice when they talk about the high cost of rents and housing, the politicians never take responsibility for their part in this mess. New Jersey scumball hassling pro-life pregnancy center. Speaking of so-called public servants not doing their job, there's an interesting case out of New Jersey. The New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin served subpoenas on First Choice Women's Resource Center operation, which is described as pro-life. The abuse of legal process is pretty evident on the surface, as the AG's office is demanding 10 years of every solicitation, email, and text message that this organization sent to donors, and along with donor names, addresses, phone numbers, and places of employment. He justified his investigation based on claims that the centers could have provided misleading comments about abortion. It is easy to see how this could have a chilling effect on donations to such facilities. In turn, it is not easy to see why this clown should be wasting New Jersey tax dollars hassling these centers. The Alliance Defending Freedom is representing the centers and is alleging First and 14th Amendment violations by the Attorney General. I understand that even the now far left ACLU is on the side of the centers in this case. The case is now before the U.S. Supreme Court. In reviewing reports of oral arguments, it looks like even the liberal justices are not buying Plotkin's alleged reason for his invasive subpoenas. Let's see how it goes, folks. Power will decide the winner of Cold War II. My regular audience know that I've dubbed the current tense state of world as Cold War II. I lived through most of the first Cold War. It started due to the incompetence of FDR, who gave half of Europe to the dirty commies from Russia. In turn, Truman failed to honor our prior commitment to protect China, and it fell to the dirty commie Mao and his clan. This led to an incredible loss of life and economic opportunity. During the first Cold War, America won over the USSR, basically the bloated commie Russia, after World War II due to economic power and better arms development. Winning the new Cold War II will take more than that. Many voices are calling out that we need to win leadership of the world in AI. While it's nice to say that, this is a much more nuanced situation. AI by itself is not the savior. America and its allies need to win on both AI and quantum computing. They need to turn them into the most devastating weapons ever known to mankind. That's right, these computing powers need to be turned into weapons to take down the current axis of evil. That's the CCP, Putin's Russia, and the whack jobs running Iran. We need to control communication, space, and under the oceans. This is not a small task. Don't be discouraged. Russia put a man in space first, but we beat them to the moon. We can do it again. Sadly, we need much better leadership than we've had over the last 20, 25, maybe up to 50 years. I believe we can do that. To win that round, we must be able to meet the enormous energy demands that these computing developments require. Right now, we have data centers being developed ahead of the energy supplies that they require. That is going to cause something parallel to what many Americans, including myself, experienced in the 1970s, where we had lines at gas pumps as demand outstripped supply. Trump is on the right track with drill baby drill, but that is not nearly enough. Nuclear power and power generation that is not even on the drawing boards will be required. Who doesn't like a good animal story? Well, this one is a bit unusual. Virginia is one of the few states that still operates state stores for hard liquor. In Ashland, Virginia, not far from Richmond, Virginia, a state store had an unusual break-in. Employees found broken bottles of booze around the store, but the doors were still secured. They saw some ceiling tiles out of whack. Eventually, they found the bandit. Yup, a totally drunk raccoon was discovered, sprawled out on the floor of the bathroom next to the toilet. He was safely taken to the Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter. After sleeping it off, he was safely released back into the wild. As we roll into the holidays, I want to use this story to remind all of my listeners that this is the time of the year when there are many, many parties. Alcohol is served at most of them. Please, please, please do not even think about drinking and driving. The loss of life due to impaired driving continues at a stunning pace. Some of my friends now simply Uber or Lyft to the parties where they anticipate drinking and then use those services to return home. And if you're hosting a party, please be sure to have lots of non-alcoholic beverages and do not let anyone leave your party who looks or acts in any way impaired. Call the police if you have to. So I hope not a single member of my audience ends up flat on the floor drunk like this wreck. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.